Jags fans, happy Tuesday, April 23rd. We are just about 48 hours away from the start of the 2024 NFL Draft. By the time you guys are seeing this, and I've got a very special guest here with me to talk some Jaguars football, man. Tom McManus, everybody make some noise, man. Tom, thank you so much for taking some time this afternoon to come on here and talk some Jaguars football with me.
Great to be with you, man. I appreciate the intro, and it's an exciting time. Looking forward to this Thursday night and throughout the weekend.
It is an exciting time. And Tom told me kind of before we got on here, man, that he's going to be over by the beach bars doing some stuff for the Jaguars in terms of the draft party as well. Do you want to go ahead and tell the people a little bit about what's going on? Because I know some people are going to be over
Thursday
at the
night
draft party.
thank you. We'll be at the Graffiti Burger Bar. Last year I did a kind of a happy hour show there during the season. Me and Killer Bees, Aaron Beasley, of course, top 25 all-time Jag. He's my co-host. We're doing season 2. We're kicking that off in a couple weeks, but this Thursday night, we're doing an NFL draft party, Jags party. Myself, Killer Bees, Sammy Kavaris, and Coach Dave Campbell. We'll just do a few segments of talking about the Jags, talking about the draft, talking about what we're hoping to see, and then we'll hang out until the Jags pick, man. And as we know from last year, that could be towards the end of the first round. You just never know. It could be quicker if they move up, but that all brings the excitement to it, no doubt.
Oh, it definitely does. And I know the community is just absolutely buzzing. If I was in Jacksonville right now, I'd be there. But, I got to work game 3 of the Orlando Magic. So I'm not complaining either way. Speaking of former Jaguars, you brought up Aaron. And for you guys that don't know, aren't familiar with Tom McManus, McManus is a former Jaguars middle linebacker, played with the team from 95 through 99. And now Tom is a guest on several shows here at 1010XL, the Jaguar Sports Radio Network, always providing compelling insights and always giving his perspective, especially as a former player. And something that I want to know about what you're going to have to now watch this season with the Jaguars and with the NFL this year as a former player is how special teams is going to look differently, especially when we talk about new kickoff rules kind of being implemented this season before we get into all of the draft talk. Tom, what was your reaction to the new NFL kickoff rules, and what do you think the Jaguars, maybe should do moving forward about that?
Well, it changes the kickoff quite a bit. I used to run down on kickoff. I used to be the wedge buster, when they used to be able to form a wall in front of the returner, and you literally had to bust through that wall to try to get to the guy. They had other guys coming from the outside, but I typically was, the guy that had to run through. I wasn't the only one, but a few of us, that's what our jobs were. So, look, you got to protect the safety of the players. I understand that. I think what's going to be challenging, though, is how you can defend these kickoffs, because when you're running down on kickoff, you're not engaging with the front line. You're avoiding the front line. You don't even want to touch the front line. You want to get around them, get back into your lane, and continue to move forward, because the minute you hook up, the minute you're wrestling and trying to shed the block, well, that's what it's going to be like. So are you going to have, instead of a bunch of DBs like you used to have, maybe linebackers, you're going to have bigger guys. You're going to have D linemen. You're going to have linebackers, big safeties that can hit, shed, and make a tackle. I think advantage return team. I don't know the stats. I don't know. I know it's new to the NFL. I thought the XFL was doing it, or the UFL, but I don't think they're doing it like this. Since they've combined leagues, right?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure if the XFL is implementing the exact same thing, because I know that there was like inspiration that the NFL took from it, some of the same nuances. Yeah. But I think this is an advantage, just like you said, to pick up on that point for the return team. The way the teams are lined up prior to coming down the field, full speed ahead. I understand that there's the protection of the players, but now you're talking about, like you said, bigger guys out there on the field on special teams, just really with the advantages and the disadvantages now with these new kickoff rules. And maybe that actually factors into something with the hip drop rule, something that I think, especially as defensive players, when you have a Derrick Henry coming down, you have these bigger physical running backs coming downhill, and you're 185 pound, 190 pound safety, you have to kind of create that leverage. And especially whether we're talking defensively or on special teams, it's going to be really interesting to see how NFL teams are going to have to adapt to this rule.
I wonder how many kickoffs will be broken for big gains or touchdowns this year. Will it be more than normal because of all it's going to take is I mean, it always only takes a small crease, but when
Of course.
you got guys full speed flying in at all angles, that crease only lasts for a split second. If I got all my guys tied up and they're wrestling, all it's going to take is one seam to give up, and next thing you know, they're gone. I would imagine they're going to have a safety in the back or two to make sure
Mhm.
if someone does break when they can tackle them. But yeah, I mean, look, the league has been for decades changing the rules to benefit what? More scoring, more
Of
offense, more
course.
points on the board, and this is just another way for them to try to do that.
It is. And to be honest, I don't blame the NFL because they want their ratings, they want the revenue. They obviously want to generate as much marketability as possible. But like we talked about, this is definitely advantage towards the offense. And the last thing I want to talk about really quickly with this, Tom, before we dive deep in all the draft talk is you talked about there being that little crease, right? How exponentially this might work for the Jaguars and I guess work for offensive teams on special teams. How about the idea of maybe bringing back a Jamal Agnew who's coming off of a bad leg injury back in week 17, but obviously one of the best return mans. You can now have two returners back there with this new rule, right? Even though you just signed Devin Duvernay, if
Yep.
you could have two explosive guys and arguably two of the best returners in the league on the new special teams rule, I think that's going to work tremendously to your benefit. How would you possibly feel about that?
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, I love Jamal. I didn't want him to go, to be
Mhm.
honest with you. I hope they can
I
find a
don't
way
either.
to figure it out. I actually thought he should have been utilized more as an offensive weapon. I think what
Thank
happened
you.
though is every time they put him out there, they kind of gave it away what they were going to do. I
Mhm.
mean, if he lined up as number three, as the wing, they were going to do a reverse. I mean, it was just like so predictable. The one they did the wheel route, remember that? I don't know if that was the
Correct.
score,
Against
where he
Baltimore.
did down and out and then up the field
Mhm.
and he was wide open. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. That guy can run routes, he can catch, but I understand that they go with Devin Duvernay. But like you said, having a second guy back there, I'd be all for it. That guy's explosive. I think he could have been utilized a little bit more, but great in the return game. There's hardly too many guys better than him returning kickoffs. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Today,
and
anyway.
just seeing how much the Jaguars consistently uh go towards improving their special teams, whether that's through free agency or getting guys that can
Yep.
do things defensively and on special teams. The Jaguars value and take a lot of pride in their special teams, which I do appreciate. So I do
Yep.
think it would be a
Yep.
good situation for maybe a Jamal Agnew to come back if he
Yeah.
can come back at the right price. But let's
Yep.
kind of get into the draft talk. The
Yep.
first thing that a lot of people have been now talking about these last couple of weeks, and there's been a lot of smoke, are the Jaguars going to move up? You saw Doug
Yeah.
Peterson and Trent Baalke at their press conference. Baalke was talking about, well, the analytics are going to say you never move up. You want to acquire more
Right.
draft capital, yada, yada, yada. But where there's smoke, there's fire. And there have been some rumors out there that the Jaguars are in the market to potentially move up, especially with Arizona and Atlanta potentially being teams in the top 10 that could maybe want to trade back. How do you feel about the Jaguars potentially trading up? And is that kind of where you would say you lean the most with this year's draft?
I no, I wouldn't say I would, to be honest with you. But look, at the end
Okay.
of the day, whatever moves they make, I'm gonna support. I mean,
Of
I
course.
just want them to win. Just be right. You go
Mhm.
get a number one wide receiver, great. He better turn out to be a number one wide receiver. I look back, I don't know, 2 years ago, Trevor didn't really have a pure number one. He had a better
Mhm.
offensive line, he had a better running game, and he had a really great year. I mean, especially during that stretch where he really lit it up. Last year
Mhm.
you bring in Ridley. You were down there at camp. The hype was
Yeah,
unbelievable. I mean, we're
it
going to
is.
set records. We're going to score all these points. We're going to throw all these, touchdowns and whatnot. And it felt like he almost was like pressured to make that throw down the field to try to like
Mhm.
force it to Ridley. I don't think that works in Doug Peterson's offense. I think it's an
Mm-mm.
offense that does work all together. The outside guys to slot the tight end, the back out of the backfield. To me, I look, especially with the new contract extension that is going to happen for Trevor and
Mhm.
should. I want to protect him more than anything.
Yes.
I want another tackle, and if you don't get him in the first round, maybe there's somebody in the second. But I know there's about six candidates in that first round that
Easily.
I just man, I mean, who's our number one asset? It's Trevor Lawrence.
It
He got
is.
hit way too many times last year. And you can give me injuries, which some are valid. You can give me this, you can give me that. But at the end of the day, Brett, they did not protect their quarterback well at
Mhm.
all. And to me, that's what happened to Trevor. I mean, the run game got shut down. The pass game got shut down. He's getting killed. He's still trying to make plays and trying to make throws, and the drops they're out of sync. Next thing you know, he doesn't trust anybody. It just domino effects. So to me, protect the young man. He's going to do everything he can to be the best quarterback he can be. Make sure he has time to go from number 1 to number 2 to maybe number 3 if he has to. Instead of number 1's not there and here comes the pressure and I got to do something, either run or make a throw that I don't want to make, or you know what I mean? So to me, I don't necessarily need that Roma Tuesday or the Malik Neighbors or anything. They're great, and maybe they'll be great pros. You never know till they get into the league. You just never know if they're
no prospects a guarantee.
You don't know until they get in there, but it looks like they're going to be very good players. But I don't think for the health of the team, and I mean health meaning being successful, I don't think you go out of your way to grab that number 1 wide receiver. I wouldn't. And if the OTs are gone, I'm probably and one of those corners are there, I'm probably going corner. And then we'll go from there. Because I don't know. Maybe Brian Thomas, but that's a one-hit wonder. You don't know if that's going to totally translate. Maybe it will. Look, I thought DJ Shark was going to be a great addition for us.
Injuries kind of derailed him throughout his times as well.
6'4", run down the field, and when he was healthy, he was pretty good. But we know that's not always the case for people, for guys. So I don't know. I to me, build it up front. You got weapons. I'm not saying you're not going to add a speedy wide receiver in the draft, because you should. You should add more speed to your wide receiving core, no doubt about that. But I don't think I'd over push it, man. I heard a draft today where a Tuesday drops to 12. Maybe if you can get up
Doubt
there, maybe, but I don't think he'll drop. I don't think he'll drop.
He's not getting past New York at 10. That is the absolute lowest he would go. But go ahead.
Yeah. What if Brock Bowers is there? Brent,
at 17?
You know what? At 17,
yes,
he may not be there.
In a Doug Peterson tight end centric system, when you have Evan Ingram, who is essentially a slot wide receiver, dressed as a tight end, with a Brock Bowers, a guy who is going to block and be important in the intermediate part of the field, and you have a double-headed monster like that, because look at how successful Doug's been in Philadelphia with Brent Selleck, Zach Ertz, and Dallas Goedert as well too. This is a tight end centric offensive system that Doug Peterson is a tight end guru. If Brock Bowers is there, that is a layup. I mean, I'm just not even going to assume that he's there, because I highly doubt that he's there.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be there either, but that could be, that could be a great pick for us.
Yeah, and I think that helps beef up, at least in terms of, if you want to go 11 personnel and you want a double tight end out there, some run blocking, different packages, whatever the Jaguars would want to do. But to be honest, I'm not going to really entertain Brock Bowers all that much, just because I highly doubt he's there. But I want to get back to the point where you were talking about, I know it might not be the sexy pick, but I want to work in the trenches. I want to get an offensive tackle. I want to protect our franchise quarterback. And as these last couple of days have gone on, I just talked about it with Tony Wiggins a couple of days ago on the pod. I'm leaning more offensive line now. I understand that I want an outside corner opposite side of Tyson Campbell, who deserves a contract extension and should get one. We know that we have to protect our franchise quarterback in number 16, because this team's going nowhere unless that guy's upright and healthy. I would feel a lot better moving forward if I have 2 solidified tackles for the future, because if they go in, they get their guy and they identify at 17, hey, this guy's on our board. This is the guy that we value at this position, and we can get him. Afterwards, Walker Little's going to be a free agent after the season. He's not going to re-sign. He's been your swing tackle since you took him back in 2021. Cam Robinson's on an expensive $20 million cap hit. You can save $16 million on the cap. If you go get your guy right now and you get your offensive tackle in the first round, and you have Anton Harrison at the right tackle position on the second year of his rookie contract, and you get another solidified left tackle to protect Trevor's blind side for the next 5 to 6 years of control, you're setting yourself up for so much more success. I understand why some Jaguar fans are of the mindset, hey, we're not taking someone on the interior of the offensive line or as a tackle in the first round, because you take offensive tackles and offensive linemen in the first round to be day one starters. That is a luxury, to have a first round selection on the offensive line and have them be a developmental depth piece behind a lot of great veterans, Cam Robinson, Brandon Sheriff, Mitch Morse, guys who have been there and done that at some of the highest levels. As much as I want to take that outside corner, as much as I want to go get that wide receiver one for Trevor Lawrence, as we've approached the draft closer, I'm totally for taking an offensive lineman. Because here's the thing, before I let you say your piece again too, the reason I brought up Jackson Powers Johnson the other day on Twitter, because I wanted to hear the discourse around him. If the Jaguars were to take JPJ, let's say at 17 overall, if they wanted to trade back and acquire some more capital, but they still took him, do you know how much of an just uproar a lot of the Jaguars community is going to be in the fan base? Because why are we taking a first round guy who's not even going to play, right, with the offensive line that you currently have as of right now? It's not about that. The draft is about getting guys that you think is the best player available at that position and protecting your franchise quarterback for the future, right? So if Mitch Morse or who else, Ezra Cleveland and Brandon Sheriff, hypothetically were to go down with injury and miss any kind of significant time, knock on wood, do you know how much worse that interior of the offensive line is going to look?
Terrible.
Do you know how much more limited your play calling is going to be in terms of certain zone run gap schemes and play action passes? Because you know Trevor's going to get pressure up the middle within a second and a half. If we don't protect that offensive line, because I think people are just genuinely forgetting how bad it was last season, and that's why a lot of the play calling was limited. I am doing everything in my power if the right player is there. And I'm protecting Trevor Lawrence. So I'm totally okay with taking a tackle, taking someone on the interior. I would rather us go offensive line at this point and just continue to have that insurance plan. It sounds like we're on the same page about all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I've had that rationale for a while. Again, he's our number one asset, and he got beat up way too much. Even in the good moments, he was getting hit. I mean, every week jumping on my podcast, catching up with Tommy Mack, it's like, this kid's getting killed. Even if I'm not even talking the injury. I'm just talking watching the games.
Getting the hits.
It's like first read isn't there. And next thing you know, I got someone hitting me or I got someone pressuring me. I got to move out of the way and I can't ever get to my second read. So I would beef up that O-line. I don't know about center. Look, I think with free agency, they did a great job with free agency, right? So Eric Armstead, Mitch Morse, Ronald Darby, those three picks, DT, center, and corner, allow you to not have to force a pick at 17. Like last year, you needed a tackle. Cam got suspended. You didn't really have another tackle. Walker, look, Walker has been here how many years now? He's still not the guy.
Since 2021, and he's not the guy.
You drafted him in the second round to be your left tackle.
Correct.
I mean, he eventually is going to be your left tackle, but he's never.
He was supposed to be Cam's replacement.
Yeah, he's never taken it away. So he's not the guy. That's just the way it is. Maybe he could be a swing tackle. I'm fine with that, but he's not the starter, or he would be the starter. That's how it works in the NFL. With Cam, look, you got 1 year left. Whatever you do with that money, that's not really, it's not my money. So I don't, if it fits, it fits. If he stays for a year and you still draft that young kid who can eventually get in there, whatever, I don't really care. But to me, I want a younger, big, bruising offensive lineman. Now, one of my favorites who won't be there is Fuaga, the kid out of Oregon State. I wish he was. That's the kind of guy we need. The kind of guy that can play every position they say and has a mean and nasty temperament. Now, Cam has a mean and nasty temperament, and I love that about Cam. And Cam's been a great Jaguar, but the reality is this. He's been hurt too many times. He's getting up there in age. And when those things happen, you're more susceptible to little nicks and little injuries that are going to cost you missing games. So if Cam can't give me 15 starts, and I don't mean 15 and then miss the last two and miss the playoffs. I don't want to miss in any playoffs in this scenario. But if he can't give me 15, why is he my left tackle? Now anybody can get hurt, don't get me wrong, but there's less wear and tear on a young kid coming out of college than there is on an 8-year veteran playing game after game or as many games as he's played. So I like Fuaga. I like the kid out of Washington, Fautanu, I believe you pronounce it.
Troy Fautanu.
Yep. I'm okay with Mims out of Georgia if he's there.
I was about to say that's going to be the name that Trent Baalke is going to be eyeing with his prototypes, his measurables. That is going to be, I think, if Trent Baalke does go tackle in this year's draft, which I doubt that the Jaguars will, but that's why we're talking about it. I think Amarius Mims would be the guy that he would be targeting.
Well, okay, and let me say two things. So one guy I noticed creeping up. Now to me, it's like he's the next one outside the big 6 or 7. Is that kid out
Tyler
of Duke,
Guyton.
Graham Barton?
Oh, Barton. He's projected to be a guard though
He
at the
is.
next
He is. They
level.
say he can play
Mhm.
different, but whatever. I'd be okay with that too if they move back. I don't know if I'd take him at 17, but if somehow they
Yeah.
move back and don't get their guy, then you might invest in that just to beef up your offensive line. But to me, look, man, those press conferences, they don't tell you nothing. I tell you, you know what I
Mm-mm.
said earlier today, Brett, on my other show. I said I think the biggest smoke screen out of that press conference is when Trent Baalke said, "Oh yeah, we could find this offensive tackle starter in the fourth, fifth, or sixth round."
Lies. No, that does not
I
exist in the
think it's
NFL. That does not
well,
exist.
whether he can or not doesn't matter. I think that was to throw people off that he could be looking. Look, I don't believe anything that comes out of their mouths in press conferences
No.
before the draft. They're not going to tell
No.
anybody anything. They're not going to give you or any local media the scoop. You know what I
No,
mean?
of course
It
not.
would ruin their strategy. They're not going to do any of that. So I think we saw a couple smoke screens with that. Look, I would be I would be happy again because it's our team, but I'd be surprised if they take 17 and 48 and move up and try to get a wide receiver. I really do. I don't know. I go back because to me, look, what really hurt this offense last year, other than Trevor getting knocked around and not being at his best, losing Kirk hurt. I mean,
Oh,
that
of
guy, when
course. That
when
was
when you
huge.
got everybody out of the way and he's one-on-one with that nickel or safety or corner, nobody
He's
can
cooking him
guard
in the
him.
middle. No, he's
He
cooking that
kills them
nickel.
every time, and he'll
Mhm.
continue to do that. But you got to have those guys on the outside. Well,
Mhm.
look, Gabe Davis can run. Everyone acts like he's this slow guy. He's not slow. He's a bigger guy that can get down the field. A healthy Zay can get down the field.
Healthy.
You got
Has to be
Ingram.
healthy.
He's got to
Mhm.
be healthy. Well, yeah, listen, that
Zay
knee
was
brace,
such a
nobody's
big.
running with that. Nobody's running with
Yeah,
that knee
last
brace.
season when we lost Zay, for
Yeah.
the extended period of time, I think he briefly came back in London, missed some more
Yep.
time, if I'm not mistaken. You could see a noticeable difference on the outside receivers and the way the Jaguars offense was producing.
Yep.
Right, there were
Agreed.
certain plays, certain schemes that everything was horizontal. Because when you
Yep.
don't have that outside threat, that's going to put a lot more of the focus and attention on a guy like Christian Kirk, even in the slot.
Right.
That hurts his production. It puts more eyes on him.
Yep.
And just schematically,
Well,
it wasn't working. Go ahead.
and you do need speed on both sides because if you only have speed
Yes.
on one side, they'll just double that side and not worry about the other guy. But
Mhm.
when Zay's healthy, he can run. So when they flush
Yes.
everybody out, that's when Ingram and Kirk,
Kirk can work
and
the
I'll
middle.
use your term, Cooks. I know you use Cook a lot on Twitter. I
Cook,
love it.
yeah. Cook,
Yeah,
yeah.
but seriously, like that's when those guys go to work and make things happen. So again, I don't think I would throw the farm at getting a number one. I want to beef up that O line. I'm also okay. Look, I know it's probably not needed, but I'm okay with a Byron Murphy, that stud D tackle out of Texas.
Mhm.
Another D lineman. I mean, look, here's the thing that bothered me last year, Brett, was that I never thought it was lack of talent. I thought it was their attitude. I felt like they had already arrived when they weren't
Mhm.
there yet. They were on their way.
Correct.
They had a great year the year before. The organization said what? Oh, we got everybody. We don't really need, we're going to run it back with everybody we have. We're going to
Bad
extend
decision.
everybody. We don't really need to add anybody. Well, what are you telling your players? You're saying, well, we're good. We're good. Let's just move forward and go out and compete. And look, you're 8-2, 8-3 or 8-3, and then you're thinking your shit don't stink. And next thing you know, you're not putting in the extra work. You're not putting in the extra conditioning. You're getting tired during games. You're getting flustered during games. And the mantra to beat our team the past 2 years, and I know nobody likes to hear this, but I think it's true. I think every team that gets prepared to play us is told the same speech before the game or during the week. Hit this team in the mouth, and they
Mhm.
they won't respond. They weren't
Yeah.
as physical as they need to be. Now, Doug's offense isn't a physical offense for the most part, right? It's an
Mhm.
efficient, productive, keep it moving, pass, opens up the run, vice versa, and we just keep it rolling. We're not just going to move you out of the way, kick
Mhm.
your ass into the ground, and run over you like they do on other teams. It's okay if it works. It's not a problem. But our defense, I mean, goodness gracious, they held the fourth down
Couldn't
for
stop
like
a
what,
nosebleed.
11 weeks, and then they started crumbling. Now, here's something to ponder. Last year, third down, our defense was phenomenal. Third down percentage, they were like 35, 36%. That is
Yeah, they could get
absolutely
off the
incredible. What
field.
that means is they give the offense the ball and get off the field. Like 2 out of 3 times on third down, I'm giving my offense the ball. Well, guess what? How did they repay him? The Jags were one of the worst on third down. So they were at like
Yep.
30%. So every time you're giving the ball, they're just giving it right back to the other team.
Right
And
back.
guess what that means? I got to go back out on that
Tired.
field. I got to go
Tired
back out on the
legs.
field. It happens. It happens. So but again, I think some of that you got to condition for that. You got to be prepared for that. So hopefully they've learned their lesson, because I didn't think last year was lack of talent. I didn't. I think it was
No,
lack of
I didn't think it
attitude.
was lack of. I think it was lack of attitude. I do think coaching obviously played, maybe coaching and accountability, but I think when
Accountability.
you take a look back at 2023, we can obviously talk about the injury bug, but let's forget that. I think you brought it up. They said we're good. Hey, we had a great 2022 season. Trevor took a step up. We obviously see he's our franchise quarterback. We made some noise in the postseason, went down to the wire with the eventual Super Bowl champions, now back-to-back Super Bowl champions. And what did Trent Baalke do in the draft? Or excuse me, not in the draft, in free agency. He said to himself, and his actions showed, we're good. And I mean no disrespect to Dearness Johnson, a guy who is a Florida product, USF, great running back. That was our biggest free agent signing in 2023. Dearness Johnson, when you had an opportunity to really grab this division by the chokehold and to continue to pedal to the metal, that is what you did. You were conservative and complacent with your roster going into free agency. And look at all of the great teams and general managers across the league, what they do for their franchise quarterback and what they do for their rosters. If you are serious about competing, granted the Buffalo Bills didn't get over the top, but every single year you see them trying to go all in. Look at the Los Angeles Rams when they went to the Super Bowl and they won it all. They went all in. All of these rosters and all of these general managers, you understand when it is your time and you have that gap of a window, especially with a franchise quarterback on a rookie contract, you cannot be complacent. But something else that I want to bring up that you said, you were talking about Byron Murphy. I definitely lean Johnny Newton a little bit more, but the reason why I highly doubt, the reason I highly doubt a Byron Murphy gets drafted to the Jaguars is because he does not fit the Baalke prototype in my eyes. I would like to still beef up that front seven, add some more beef with Eric Armstead, Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker, but Byron Murphy's just a smaller guy, despite him being 300 pounds. I mean, he comes in at the combine. He's not even 6'1". His arm length, 32 3/8 of an inch. Very athletic guy, but maybe him playing at Texas and playing in the FBS, he was a bit more big and physical than some of his opponents. He's going to get to the NFL. He's going to play some grown men. I don't know if that length and those measurables are going to translate to the next level. I don't feel as if he's more safe as a pick than a Johnny Newton, but otherwise, I'm okay with going with the trenches. I doubt, like you mentioned earlier, that the Jaguars are going to sell 17 and 48 to try to go up and get their number one wide receiver. As excited as I would be about it, to go get Roma Dunze, to go get Malik Neighbors, at this point, I just want to get an offensive lineman and protect Trevor. I'd like to get someone in the defensive front seven, add some more to that pass rushing group, especially on down and distance, and you can potentially see a reminiscent of Saxonville 2.0. And the last thing I want to talk about really quickly, Tom, is we've talked about offensive line. We've talked about skill position guys. If there's one guy realistically who you would say, you know what, I want the Jaguars to get at 17 overall, who is that guy for you? Because I feel like you've mentioned a bunch of names, but who is he?
I would go nuts if it was for Waga. I would be so happy, man. I think he could be really special. But again, I mean, look, Latham's not going to be there. I mean, I'd love that. I mean, because here's another thing. Trent makes these comments. What did he say in the press conference 6 months ago or 4 months ago, whatever it was? That Antone can play left. Right. So to me, they're already talking about it. He doesn't make that comment without them internally saying,
hey. And he played left tackle at Oklahoma, and he was successful.
So don't think we have to grab a left tackle. We could grab a right tackle, and he could move to left. And I'm okay with that. And I think that would work out fine. So it'll be interesting what we do. But man, I go back to 2022 when the offense was doing a lot better. The O-line was playing better. I mean, think about Travis Etienne averaged 5 yards a carry that year.
It was incredible.
5.1. Last year was 3.6.
He's getting hit behind the line. Getting hit behind the line.
No, he's got no.
Yeah.
It's not. Look, and what's that stat? His after first contact's ridiculous. So it's not like he's getting knocked down on every play. He's trying to make as much as he can. So I got to take care of that old line because listen, as we all know this, right? Have all the skill positions in the world. Your quarterback don't have time to get the ball out. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. Yeah. And if he's not going to get it out on first reads only, go back to the San Diego game in the playoffs. What did they do on those first reads? They sat on them.
Took them away.
And picked them off 4 times. So we made adjustments, and, we know how it worked out. But you got to be able to do more than just a first read throw in this game, and you got to be able to do it with a solid offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely concur with that sentiment. Just to pick up on that final point, when I asked you, I know you just talked about Fuaga being your guy. That would be your dream scenario at 17. Now, I've been on the record, and I'm still staying on the record. I believe that the Jaguars are going to go a corner or a wide receiver at 17. I think that they're going to take Brian Thomas Jr. or Terrion Arnold, either one of those guys. That's who I expect to be the pick. But at this point, I think I'm of the mindset that I'm going to trade back in this draft and take Jackson Powers-Johnson or grab a tackle, either one. I am so concerned about the interior of this offensive line if one injury occurs. If an Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morse, or who am I forgetting? Brandon Sheriff goes down.
Yep.
Yes, correct. This offensive line is just going to look drastically different, and you're going to have to see probably a Luke Fortner get thrusted back into that starting five. And then you're going to lose out on some of that chemistry and that continuity on the offensive line, which we know is important because you can rotate edge rushers. You're not rotating your offensive line. You need everybody upright, healthy, and you need that chemistry and continuity. I'm just of the mindset that I just want to continue to protect Trevor Lawrence and continue to stick in the trenches. So I believe that the Jaguars are going to take Terrion Arnold or Brian Thomas Jr. We'll have to see how it all pans out. Tom McManus, everybody again, man, thank you so much for taking some time with me this afternoon and talking about some Jags football again.
No, it was great, Brett. Listen, I love following you on Twitter. You do a great job, and great job on the interview, man. Really impressive.
Thank you very much, man. Yeah, and like I said, Jags fans, before we kind of go up out of here, man, like I said, make sure you guys go on Thursday evening. If you guys can't make it downtown to the stadium, make sure you guys go out to, what was the name of the bar again?
Graffiti Burger Bar in Jacksonville Beach, right there on 3rd Street. New ownership, new management, brand new menu. It's fantastic.
Good stuff, man. Make sure you guys make it out to Graffiti Bar out by Jack's Beach. Go see Tom McManus and go out there and celebrate the Jaguars having a great start to the 2024 NFL Draft. Thank you guys again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, a.k.a. BJ. I'm out, y'all. And like always, let's go Jags.